We've already taken you on some of our camping trips and our journeys across the United States, but we haven't told you about how and why we started camping. So today we are going to talk about that because it is pretty important in understanding why we are sharing these videos with you in the first place. Let's get into it. Something like that. All right. Yeah. We are nice and cozy underneath our rumple blanket. We are in our tent at our campsite, and it feels like a good time to talk about why we got into camping in the first place. So stick around to the end of this video if you want to hear all about how and why we got into camping, and also some of the stories about the things we learned along the way. If you've watched any of our other videos, then you probably know that we have different experiences in how we started camping before we were together. So we are married now, and we started camping together after we got together. But we had separate lives before that. We haven't known each other our whole lives. And Darrell has his own story of how he started camping. Darrell, what was your experience like when you first started camping?
Well, my first experience, I went with my dad and two of my cousins. We stayed at a campground in Alabama, actually. It was my father's decision to go. I was interested and excited. I never been camping before, but I was always interested in the outdoors in general. So I said, hey, sounds like a good time. We went, we did have a good time. We had a tent, we set up, we had some food. And it was very low key. I mean, it was at a campground. Other people were there with their RVs. That was my first experience. It was 2 nights that we were out there. Very calm, very chill. But yeah, me and my cousins just kind of hung around, played games, and we just had a good time being kids then. Yes.
And were y'all in like a remote area, or was it somewhere that was closer to the city or suburban, or what kind of area were you in?
In my mind, it was Alabama. So, I mean, it was at a campground in Alabama. So that's all y'all need to know.
What does that mean? Darrell hates on Alabama.
I don't hate on Alabama. I mean, I don't know. We weren't in Birmingham and we weren't in a major city. So it was at some campground. That's all I know.
It was remote enough for you as how many years old were you?
As a 12 or 13-year-old, it was remote enough.
Okay.
I mean, we're in Alabama. Not in the city of Birmingham.
Okay.
Or the other major cities.
Montgomery, Mobile.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I mean, we may have been near those cities. I don't know. I didn't drive and I was young, but it was all the same to me.
Okay.
So.
And did you have any preconceived notions about camping back then? If you can even remember that. Did you have any preconceived notions?
No. I mean, I know that s'mores is a thing that people always wanted to do. I never really cared about that. I think we did do it, but it wasn't some the thing to do in my mind. But no, I was already somewhat familiar about the process of it and what people do.
Were you a Boy Scout?
No, I was never a Boy Scout. I probably would have been a great Boy Scout, though. Boy Scout, Eagle Scout, that whole program. I never got into that. What was your experience like?
I don't have any experience camping when I was growing up. I did things like summer camps, but we weren't camping in the summer camps. We were like going home at the end of the day. I didn't even do any of the bunk bed summer camp situations, no church camp, nothing like that. So my experience outdoors is solely just like being outdoors. So I wouldn't say in the least that I wasn't outdoorsy. I actually feel like I was relatively outdoorsy by whatever standard or measure that was, by the measure that I've created. Then I would say I felt like outdoorsy just because, I like being outside, period. I feel like that's what it takes. But I like flew kites. I remember flying kites vividly when I was young with my mother. And I like to just run around outside. I like to go to parks. I like to be outside in my backyard, in my neighborhood, like walking through the woods in the neighborhood. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know how many people call them woods because it didn't feel like a forest to me. Like I wouldn't call it a forest, but because it was just like an area of trees behind the neighborhood, then we would go into the woods. Then I don't remember hiking as like a contained activity, but I walked outside. and I know a bunch of parks. So that's the limit of it for me. It's just like literally being outdoors. I don't, from what I can remember, never set up a tent, never went on a camping trip, never did it by myself, never did it like in my older years, never did it in my younger years with family members that I can remember. And I don't think any of my family members who could remember my younger years would tell me differently because I just don't remember that being in my purview at all, camping. I don't know how many times I would have even heard the word camping when I was younger because I wasn't around people who did it like that either. So that's where I am. That's where I was with it. That gives us everybody a good example of are different situations that might be the same for people who are watching. So you have a modicum of experience with it. You at least have familiarity with it when you were growing up. Mm-hmm. And I have no experience with it when I was growing up, but also barely any knowledge of it. I think then it's interesting that both of us we're so interested in it when we got older and then got together. I don't have that background at all. So I don't know how I got here, honestly. We're going to figure it out together. But I will say that there was a natural inclination. My mom would always tell me that when she was sick, when she was pregnant with me, that she would always feel better when she would go outside. And so I like to believe I was outdoorsy since I was in the womb. So even though I didn't know it like those younger years, I definitely loved just being outside. I felt really comfortable outside. I felt happy outside. And I think more of that just started to manifest as I started to be able to focus on other things in life. I was an academic heavy kid. I think maybe that has something to do with why that part of me wasn't uncovered when I was young, because I wanted to be in books. I wanted to read. I wanted to listen to audiobooks. I wanted to go to the library. So I think a lot of that probably just kept me from being able to develop those other outdoor activities. But I did like swim a lot when I was young, and I enjoyed hanging out outside. So that brings me to our time meeting each other. And as we got deeper into our time meeting each other, we fortunately, I know unlike a lot of partners, like a lot of the same things, but also grew into liking a lot of the same things. So you were like, yeah, you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, you want to do this? And it just worked out because for us, but I know it's not like that for a lot of other people. And one of those things was hiking and camping. So what I remember, and maybe we can just compare our notes, because what I remember is that this started when I wanted to hike. So we started hiking before we started camping. And there was a period of time where my physical activity was changing. So there was I would say it was kind of a dip in my physical. I've always been athletic. I've done athletics, just generally enjoyed like exercise and sports and activities like that. But when I was in college, I didn't really do a lot of that. And so after college, I remember there being a point I started practicing yoga asana, which is the physical postural part of the yoga practice. And I think it was around that time when I was in my early 20s, when I started wanting to hike. So I don't remember what the impetus was, but I was so driven to just find different trails to hike. So I don't remember how often, maybe it was like once every 2 weeks or so. I was going on a trail. I think some of them I might have been doing alone, but a lot of them I was taking you to with me. And so I was just looking for little trails that I could go to and hiking those. That's part of the beginning before we started camping, where I think my interest was developing in outdoor activities.
I have no notes to disagree with her.
Okay. Very straightforward. So this is probably around 2018. It had to be 2018. It was 2018 when we started talking about camping and feeling like we wanted to do it ourselves. Our first experience camping, when we first started camping, we wanted to learn how to backpack. So we weren't talking about car camping.
That's correct.
Yeah. I don't know why that is though. Don't you feel like that's probably a little odd?
No.
You don't think so?
Not in my mind.
Why?
People go backpacking. I mean, that doesn't I know that's a different style of camping than car camping, but also at the time, we wanted to camp in places that were seemingly remote, and we didn't have a Jeep at the time. So I think it was a situation where just I don't want to be at a campground on a gravel parking lot with other people who are there with their normal vehicles on gravel parking lots. And I just wanted to go into the woods and be away from people. And backpacking was the way to do that in my mind. I think that's what my thought process was at the time.
I wasn't thinking about that. I didn't really start comparing a remote experience to a more developed campground experience until I started camping more, and I knew the differences between those. But for me, I wasn't thinking about the capability. We weren't off-roading back then. I wasn't really fully thinking about the capabilities of a vehicle and where it could get us back then. For me, it was just kind of like, oh, backpacking is cool. So fortunately, we said, oh, you want a backpack? I said, oh, I want a backpack. And we
went.
And we were able to do it together. There was a long build-up process before we went on our first trip. Well, maybe not long.
It wasn't too long.
Yeah, not too long, but moderate.
We gathered our gear pretty quickly, I would say.
Yeah, we gathered our gear. We were like, oh, we were on it. I remember going to the REI garage sales, waking up early, getting in the line, snatching our trekking poles. Oh, those trekking poles. That was a good get at our first garage sale.
Still happens.
And I never, after that, I like rarely saw trekking poles at garage sales. And there were like four pair in the can that day, I remember. And Darrell, you're used to competing for good priced gear.
Yes.
That's his forte, not mine.
I'm good at it too.
Yeah. He's gonna get it. Don't try to compete with him to get discount gear somewhere, because
I'm gonna get it.
He's gonna get it. If
there's a second item, I might let you have it, but I'm gonna get what I'm gonna get. Yeah, I'm gonna get it however I need to get it.
Oh, okay. That sounded very ominous. No violence has ever occurred.
No violence.
I don't like that smile you have on your face right now.
Okay.
But yeah, so we gathered equipment. So some of it we got from discount, like we said in many other videos before. There's a gear video I'll link somewhere around here where we talk about the gear that we have and about how we have a budget, and it is not an astronomical budget. So we get gear on discount, but also how we buy some things full price. Maybe some things are
which is rare at this point.
Yeah, honestly, because we're not really acquiring that much more gear.
We basically have everything we need, and we basically have everything we need for a whole nother set of people as well.
Yeah, true. So we started doing that, and we started our education. So some of that education was online searches.
Yeah, a lot of YouTube videos. REI, to point them out again, they also had some classes that we took.
There were plenty of people we were watching on YouTube when we started this journey that were not teaching us how to use things, but also just like going on trails. So we got a sense of what trails look like, what it was like to camp. I think it just helped us understand
the how and why of things.
How it was going to feel, how it was going to be. And then we were also actually physically taking classes. So we would go to REI classes and that they offered and learn things about like certain things like feminine hygiene, and like what you would do on the trail to use the bathroom, and maps and compass classes, and how to
bear bags.
Yes, I remember that. We were on the same wavelength just now, because I was thinking, I think one of the first classes, if not the first class we took, was like how to pack a bag. Maybe the 10 essentials was in there too, but I specifically remember them showing us how to pack a backpack, how to like fit a backpack. So like where to put where the hip belt goes, how to measure yourself. And of course the people who are at the store will help you too. But I remember them teaching you how to distribute the weight, where the heavier stuff should go, where the lighter stuff should go in the backpack for you to be able to, because like I said, we weren't just camping. So it was like, we also had to learn how to carry everything on our back too. How to use water filtration, which one to get, all that stuff. So learning curve, but we gathered the knowledge and we gathered the equipment that we needed. And it was fun, right? You had fun gathering all that stuff and like getting.
It was an exciting new time.
Yeah, I think it was fun because it's like, it's like the time before you're going on a trip. You know, you have a trip planned and you get to prepare for it, and you get the anticipation of all of the fun and the novelty that you're gonna have going on it. And so we did that.
We did that.
Hi, Yves here, dropping in to let you know that we're going to have a part 2 to this video where we tell you all about our first ever time camping, which was backpacking in the Everglades. We had to take a flight to get there, and it was during a government shutdown. Obviously, you know that everything didn't quite go as intended, but of course, there's always things to learn from mistakes. So come back for part 2 to this video. We would love for you to watch it, and stay tuned right now for a little sneak peek. Until we see you next time, be safe, stay curious, and choose adventure.
And then once I realized it was on top of the tent, I immediately took action and punched it, and it flew away several feet. And it didn't come back, fortunately. But from then, I was just kind of like paranoid, like, is there anything else coming?
I can't even overstate how icky and kind of gross it looked, and how much I did not want to step into it. So there was actually one ranger that was kind of like, okay, he wasn't hostile, but he was kind of, he shrugged us off.